You ever notice how a lot of people have a lower knee that seems shifted or turned out to one side? Here's what that means and how you can fix it. What this is representing is a tibia that is externally rotated relative to the femur or the thigh bone. But in these cases, what we have is a mismatch between the mechanics of the tibia and the foot. It's not uncommon to see people that have knee pain in this presentation for this reason.
Whenever I open this app, I always see people talking in absolute certainties about tibial external rotation, and I wanted to come on here to kind of add some nuance to this conversation because there is not enough of it, and to talk about the basic anatomy of it and why it might not even be what you think it is, but also in a lot of cases it's not even needed to be addressed. So let's forget about the tibia for a second and go up to the hip. So we have what's called femoral anteversion or retroversion relative to the normal position of the hip that is just normal variance for people, and people who are more retroverted are going to have more of that toe out position that looks like a tibial external rotated position. So people are going to kind of conflate the two, and I've seen this happen a couple of times, but I just wanted to put that out there. So this picture all the way on the right is what it typically looks like when someone has retroverted hips. So this is an important thing to understand because if someone is retroverted at the hips, they actually need to be slightly tibial internally rotated to have their feet pointed forward in the first place. So if you're going to chase more and more tibial internal rotation with this person, you're not going to have a lot of success because they're already almost at their end range. And then if you're attacking it from the hip, where you want them to point the feet forward more with more hip internal rotation, maybe not a bad thing to address, but we just don't have a lot of evidence to really support that that's going to do very much for their pain and function long term. So now let's go back down to the tibia. So there's two things that can cause the toes to turn out that is actually happening at the tibia, regardless of the femur, and that's either tibial external rotation in relation to the femur, or it's tibial external torsion, which is the actual twisting of the bone of the tibia. This is just something I don't see people really considering, because if it is actually torsioned to the point where the bone is twisting, you are not untwisting a bone, I promise you that. And the thing is, we really don't have a good way of measuring this outside of imaging. So you have to get it imaged to even really understand if there's some torsion going on and twisting at the bone. All we have is some clinical tests, which I have a picture of here that you can see, which sees the relative position of the tibia on the femur, but this does not tell you whether the tibia itself is actually torsioned. I promise I'm getting to the point here, but when it comes to tibial external rotation in relation to the femur, we have very weak and very little evidence to support that it has any effect on pain and function long term. Another issue too is a lot of the research I was looking at is really looking at external tibial torsion, which is not the same thing as tibial external rotation. To keep this video from going on too long, I'm going to break down some of that research in another video, but my final point here is that there is a lot of nuance and a lot of different things that need to be considered when somebody is having pain, which may or may be related to some of these things. When it comes to retroversion or anteversion at the hip, or tibial external rotation or external torsion, we really do not have a lot of evidence to say that it matters for a lot of people. However, you should see a PT if you think that it is a contributing factor, and then they can determine if it's a worthwhile thing to go after. If you have any questions about this or want to work with me one-on-one, you can hit me up in the DMs.